Thank Bloomberg for having me, and I hope I can offer some interesting insights, at least for the way I think, which may not be the way you think. I've been involved with popular culture for about 40 years. And the one thing I've learned is that everything changes. Cars change, appliances change, fashion changes, music changes, everything changes. So that begs the question, why wouldn't luxury also change? All the time, evolving. Historically, for me, luxury used to be connected to great wealth. From there, it kind of evolved into a business classification, which I think lost touch with the way people, really think of it. So I've been involved with through memory and history when the populace was focused on rich people. The Forbes 400 came from the place where Mrs. Astor used to throw her society parties because it only fit 400, and I'd been through that, and then it went to ball players, athletes, the movie stars, rock singers, artists, media, people who ran the media in New York, the media empires, and I've seen it constantly evolve until, to me, now, luxury is like become an archaic definition. I'm not sure really what it means. I'm sure you've all heard the data and been familiarized with the data that there's so much access to wealth. It's so accessible. What does luxury really mean? From my point of view, and from the way I look at it, it has nothing to do with the price point. It has to do about how it makes you feel, the experience. In my business, a luxury hotel is one that makes you feel good. One that makes you feel you're being attended to, that you're happy and comfortable with your surroundings, that you get a good night's sleep. It has nothing to do with all those telltale, outdated definitions of luxury. Brass buttons, white gloves, 5-minute statements by someone working at the hotel before you get an opportunity to ask them what you want. All that, I think, is irrelevant and meaningless to people. It's just a question of the state of mind. So to me, it has nothing to do with the price point, and you could have a luxury hotel which and pay $150, or you can have a luxury hotel that pays $1,000. It's not a price point. I think making luxury available to everybody and accessible to everybody is a modern democratic idea. And I think it's very, very important. And it has nothing to do with, where you come from and the amount of wealth that you have. I think what's happened in Europe, which we usually follow, is that in London, you have the aristocrats, and you don't have much of a middle class, and then you have a big segment of the population. Unfortunately, I think we're heading in the same way, which is why I think luxury has to be responsive to that. We have what they call here the 1%, and then you have another big group. What I found in the hotel business is that wealthy people, as much as anybody else, want to get a good bargain. And if you can stay in a hotel room and you get the same kind of feeling and the same kind of experience that you get in a much more expensive hotel, that the wealthy people would also like to get that bargain. So if you can stay in a hotel room and spend $200 and feel as good and have the same access to entertainment and excitement rather than staying in a hotel you pay 10 times more, people will take it. Not millennials, not people who don't have a lot of money, anybody. I don't believe in doing hotels for millennials. You know why? It's ridiculous. You think Apple does phones for millennials? No, they do phones for everybody. It resonates with a certain sensibility. Whether you're 8, my son wants to have an iPhone, or whether or not you're 80. It doesn't really matter. It's like silly. I think using demographic criteria is another outdated approach. I think it's sensibility. You know, that's what connects people. It doesn't matter about wealth, race, what you do for a living, age. Those things are kind of all irrelevant. And I think you can see like a brand like Apple is a perfect example of that. You know, I think when in the hotel business, I think for luxury, I can just speak. I don't have any data to support this. I've never had data. I've always used instinct. The other day, President Trump said he relies on his gut more than the data. I don't think you can do that when you run a country. And I don't think you can do that when you run a big public company. But when you're an entrepreneur, yes, you can rely on instinct. I think what's happening, you know, with the hotel segment now is that there used to be luxury hotels in this country, big ones, 800, 1,000 rooms. The Waldorf Astoria is a good example of that. The Plaza is a good example of that. They were mainstays of the popular culture of the city they were in. They manifested the popular culture of that city. People had their affairs, their events, their luncheons. They were part of the fabric of the city. I don't think, you know, with the passage of time, I don't think we can pull that off, execute that now. 800 room, 1,000 room hotel. We can't pull off that feeling, making you feel good. So then you've seen it drop to like 400, 500, 600 rooms. And now you've seen it drop again, you know, when you have Ritz-Carlton, which was the best, Marriott people in the room over here. And then Four Seasons after that, I think their sweet spot for the luxury hotels are 250 to 350. I don't think that it can cut it anymore. So the way I see it, with all the different brands and all the different segments, it's like, why shouldn't the hotel business follow the way the population is going? You know, you have the 1%, and then you have a very big group of people who have access to capital, but you know, there's a 1% and the rest. So I think hotels should follow the same thing, and I think all luxury brands should follow the same thing. I think a luxury hotel going forward would be a real small, like 100 rooms, where you can really pull off that personal attention, not obsequious, not over the top, not pretentious, just good service, like the way you feel when you go into somebody's home and you're treated with grace and dignity and respectfully, and you feel good. Person's a good host. I think that's about 100 rooms, and I think the rooms are bigger, and it has all the fine finishes and details you might find in a residential home. The best sheets, the best towels, all those kind of things. And I think people will be willing to pay a big price for that. You know, and I mean way above what they're paying right now for the luxury hotels. They don't care. They want the experience. You know, they want to go in there and they want to feel special like that. And if that place gives a sense of time and place and location and captures the kind of spirit of the city they're in, all the better. So you don't get the same hotel in Boston, Vancouver, and Shanghai. No, they're all different. They all should manifest something of the culture of the city that they're in. And I'm not talking about the cliches. I'm not talking about if you're in London, you have to have a statue of Big Ben in the gift shop. No, I'm talking that it has the kind of vibe, if that's not the right word, but it manifests something about the popular culture, you know, of that city. And I think that, you know, people could pay 2, 3, 4 times what they're paying now. And then you have the rest, which is what I think is the rooms can be smaller, They can be very much less expensive. They can be accessible to anybody that particular service or visual resonates with those people, and it can be cheap. Still luxury. Not about price. It's not a business classification. And I think that's where we kind of missed the boat. Been asked about what brands do I consider, that I'm very impressed with luxury-wise. Well, of course I'm impressed with Apple because of the mania they have with their products. To them, it's all about the product. Nothing else matters. Even the inside of the product, even the packaging, everything. It's all about the product. I feel the same way. Nothing else matters but the product. Not the reservation system, not the loyalty program, nothing. The product. You do a good product, it's successful, and it doesn't really matter if the market's crowded or the supply is increased very much, because there's always room for a good product, always. I think in the fashion world, the brand that resonates the most with me is Hermes, because they don't have designer names. They're not relying on anything like that. They're just doing good product. And the people that go in there and buy that pay very high prices, by the way, and don't care about the designer. And I think that was a really, really great strategy that they pulled off. So I think what I'd like to do is to just take you through some of the work that I've done and how I've evolved, because I am in the luxury business right now. But I don't walk around with a suit and tie and all these other kind of things, because to me, luxury is not a price point. It's a state of mind. It's an experience. And we opened up a hotel called Public on the Lower East Side, and we opened up with 200 square foot rooms and $150 opening ADR. But the level of sophistication and the finishes and the details and the designs of the room were like cabins on a yacht. And they were sophisticated. That appeals to a certain sensibility. The way you get a cult going. Like the difference between the Samsung phone, which some people like better than the Apple phone, or the Apple phone. I gotta have the Apple phone. It doesn't matter. And I think I try and get into that zone. And that's like the model of my business. So I think everything started and everything almost ended with this the place. This is a very, very good example of a product. This place got a lot of notoriety and a lot of everything, publicity, but the point is that it was really, nobody had ever seen anything like it before. The sensory explosion and feeling protected and that the way regular people, which is a precursor to what I was just trying to explain to you, like regular people would be right next to a celebrity, and they wouldn't care. And that's why the door policy, by the way, was implemented, because those regular people, they were there to have a good time, and they didn't, and we wanted to make sure that people that went in didn't bother the celebrities that were there, or didn't bother the women that came in, by themselves. And so that kind of freedom, that experience, that elevated experience, is what really made this place, very successful. This was another club we did. The idea for this club, and you're going to see the common denominator here, that's a Basquiat. This was a museum-level piece. He did it for nothing, along with about 7 or 8 other artists. And the whole idea of this is, instead of only for rich people in their parlors sitting and seeing art versus going into a museum and straining your neck to see art, how about regular people that appreciate the art as much as anybody having a drink and living with the art the way other people, do. And I think that was an important idea. That was what I think Andy Warhol, the main contribution, take the pretension out of art, making it available, to everyone. It's hard for me to take Andy so seriously after I used to see him gallivanting around studio at 4 o'clock in the morning, but, I guess the art prices show me that. But it's that point about the accessibility and the luxury, I think is the main change that's going on now. Don't think of it as only expensive. It's just different. This was the first hotel we did. We didn't know anything. We didn't even know what we didn't know. It was Morgan's. And I think it had a residential quality to it that was done 30 years ago. Yeah, to me, it still looks good. There's a lot of breaking of rules in this. Everything isn't indestructible. The bedspreads, the carpets, no, they have to get changed. But it's there for the experience. When you do a business, you can either do something based upon excellent execution. I think the perfect example of that is Marriott. Or you can do it on great service. And I think Ritz-Carlton or Nordstrom historically provided great service. We can do something on innovation. And this was the first time innovation was done in the hotel world. Nike is a good example of that. Apple, of course, where kids who couldn't afford to pay rent had to pay $200 for their sneakers. They had to have them. This was the Royalton. It was the second place we did. This is an extrovert hotel. The Morgan's was an introverted hotel. We didn't want people to just merely pick up from one hotel and go stay into the other. There was a different feeling. There was a different, resonated with you in a different kind of way. If you want to be a part of a scene, you went here. If you wanted a kind of quiet, understated hotel, you went to the others. And these two hotels were the prototypes for every lifestyle hotel you see today. And there are thousands of them. In every city of the world, multiple versions of it. We were never interested in doing the biggest hotel company in the world. We were interested in doing the best product. I have this on here because it's a 600-room hotel in the middle of Times Square, when Times Square was unsafe to walk in. It was 600 rooms. The opening rate was $99. It was stylish, sophisticated. It had a sense of humor. It didn't have great finishes and details, but it was luxury. It was cheap chic. The fact that when you open up the door, you hit the bed, people got over that. You can see in the rooms, that's a Vermeer put on a headboard with that iron very inexpensively. The window had window air conditioning in the old radiators, so we covered it up. It doesn't matter. People felt that they were in a stylish, sophisticated environment. And we thought of this as like a transatlantic ocean liner, which I was never on. But, there people were encouraged not to stay in the staterooms, but to go on the public decks, promenading and meeting other people, which is what we did here. This is a recent condominium we just did. It has a very particular stylistic point of view. We worked with John Pawson and Christian Liègre, a French, an English, and an American. This was down in the Lower East Side. Did over $4,000 a foot in a neighborhood that never exceeded $800 a foot. People will pay, for the product. That's a picture of the bathroom. This is the public that we just did. I mean, this hotel opened up with $150 average rate. A garden, unique product in the middle of the city. have to understand, if you know the Lower East Side, it's not a gentrified area yet. So here's this like little oasis right in the middle of all of it. This was the escalators that we had that get people from the first floor to the second floor. You know, the idea is the check-in is on the second floor, and we wanted to make that trip enjoyable, so people wouldn't mind having to go up a flight of stairs. It's turned into an Instagram gold mine. Another very important thing, the market, you're seeing this now. You know, you're seeing it in the fast food business, where when I grew up, the fast food business was dominated by McDonald's, the Burger King, and companies like that. Well, then we jump forward to now, and people don't want that. They want quality. You know, you have now a bunch of fast food restaurants that are with really, really good food, quality food. You have Danny Meyer doing Shake Shack. You have Daniel Hum, who's had the best restaurant in the world for the last few years, and he's doing something called Made Nice. I believe John George does a couple of markets for us. It's fast and casual and less expensive, but it's gourmet. You know, you don't have to sit in a white tablecloth restaurant, you know, with a waiter in a tuxedo. No, that's not what luxury is today. You know, it's going in and getting it fast, getting it casual, not waiting for it, getting health things, getting gourmet food, but getting it in a kind of more casual environment. To me, it's like luxury turned upside down. This is a garden that we have in the back. This is the room, 200 square feet, with sophisticated lighting, which is very unusual for a hotel. The room was so small that we had to put the bathroom in the room, the sink in the room. You know, people don't matter. You know, like, so we don't have the soap, we don't have any bathroom things on the sink, because I want to try and make them think they're not walking to the sink. But hotel's doing, you know, very, very well, very sophisticated. A condominium I did on the west side with Herzog and Demuren, and you know, again, this did very, very well. It's very sophisticated. You know, I kind of think it's the nicest building in New York, and I mean that not because we did it or Herzog did it, but because you know, the architecture that's being done in New York now, it reminds me of that commercial where you want to freshen the air and you get hit with 10,000 roses that fall on your head. It's subtle. It doesn't yell out at you. It's understated, you know, curves, sensuous, and I love it for that reason. And that's what Hermes is to me, too, by the way. That same approach. That's what the building looks from the interior courtyard. 2 kitchens in every apartment. An island kitchen and a dirty kitchen. And the dirty kitchen, the doors close. It's made up of the same aluminum that the Apple phones are made of. It's like a little machine. It's like a Lada in the old European homes, and of course people really like that. Important point. This is a hotel in China. This is an Edition hotel, and you know, when we went to China's changing so fast. It's very difficult to do a hotel that's going to open 3 years from now, because it's going to change next month. It's happening so fast. This is on the island of Sanya, which is the vacation spot, you know, for China. Every brand you can imagine is there, and every brand looks the same. You know, the feng shui, everything, it's all the same. And so we thought, you know, you have to be true to yourself. You have to do what we do. We have to make sure we don't offend any Chinese culture. Like I didn't know whether or not we'd be able to have a Japanese restaurant there. I didn't know if that would be offensive. And they eat differently. The families eat together. Breakfast is a big meal. It's on a beach, but nobody goes out in the sun. So, we have to kind of figure out the differences in the culture, but we stayed true to our DNA. We didn't react, and so this hotel, really sophisticated, and it does quite well. But we did for the kids, very family oriented there. It's a little bit different than the families here. In America, the parents go, they drop the kids off and they leave. They don't do that in China. The parents stay with the kids while they're playing. So you have to provide seating areas. But I want to make a point. When I was in college, which seems like 100 years ago, I would travel around to various countries, and I would see the hairdos would all be different, and the dress would be different, the hem heights would be different, everything would be different. Every country had their kind of look. I don't see that anymore. I see that globalization. Everybody's dressing the same. The luxury stores on Bond Street or on the Bund, they're all the same. That's a bad thing, I think, when a country loses that kind of unique and specialty. So, for me, I think, when I think about Saint-Tropez and those little stores that they have that have kind of very unique, I think it's dangerous when everything starts to look the same. But the idea is we just stay true to ourselves. These bumper cars, the thing is, the parents wanted to go in the bumper cars, not the kids. And this was the room. This was just another hotel we did in Barcelona, an addition hotel. This is a hotel we did in Shanghai. Again, we wanted it to be. I can't believe I got through the slides. We wanted it to be sophisticated. When you have a brand, a luxury brand, you want to set up a certain level of expectations to the customer, and they always have to. So that's really what a brand is. And we don't cater to or kowtow to local cultures. We stay true to ourselves, but we capture the energy of the place we're in subtle ways, which I think is very important. And so I think if that's, thank you.